touching, isn't it? What we don't see that's happened overseas is a lot of stuff. And we had an opportunity probably like 3 years ago. I met this young man right here. Brian Kearney from Uncharted International is the director of Uncharted. He came to me and he said, hey, would you like to partner with Uncharted? And at the beginning of our church, it was everyone is asking for partnership with the new church. And Brian said, Dave, we want to be your missions pastor since you're a small church. And I'm like, that sounds good and great and whatever. I've heard it all before. But then I started to get to know Uncharted. I started to get to know Brian. And Brian is actually our missions pastor for Catalyst Church. Even though he doesn't go here, he is our missions pastor. And I appreciate that, Brian, very, very much. So Brian's going to share with us a little bit about Uncharted because there's a lot of new faces. Some of you guys have heard about Uncharted. So I'm going to ask him a couple questions and have an open mind about what we're partnering with and who we're partnering with. So Brian Kearney, go ahead and tell me a little bit about Uncharted and kind of why does it exist and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And thanks for allowing me to be here. First thing I want to say right out the chute is I am so proud of this church, so grateful for Catalyst and the members in this room. You guys have been phenomenal. You guys have sponsored several of our orphans. The children's ministry sponsors an orphan. I think we even have a picture of Nabu, if we can.
There's Nabu. Yeah,
there
absolutely.
she is.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that it makes a huge difference in Nabu's life and in all the children's lives for those who have sponsored or come alongside them. And they really think of you guys as really their moms, their dads, their family. They look forward to when we bring teams, and they look forward to getting letters and pictures and just seeing the faces. So Nabu, I'll tell you, is just a precious, precious girl that really, really is grateful to Catalyst Church. And I mean, there's other things you guys have done. You guys have sponsored some of our church planners. Those are just, it's just a fancy word for saying a missionary. But it's a national missionary in Myanmar named Chimpu. And you guys have been really, really a background to Chimpu as well. Many of you have gone to Fort Wayne or Myanmar, and so you know a little bit about that as well. And then I think about a month ago, maybe it was 2 months ago, you guys did a service project helping us. We bought a building on the east side of Evansville, and you guys have been helping us renovate that. And actually one of your members, Les, literally is there almost every day. So it's like his full-time job away from his full-time job.
You know where the fan world is, the fan and light place on Green River? That's where they're moving into.
Yeah, and I just got a letter from the city. I got to get that sign down in the next 10 days or I'm in trouble.
Oh.
So, is anyone here on the city board?
No.
So, you're going to cost me money. But no, I'm not just saying this for flattery or just because I'm here. I really mean it with everything in me. We can't do things without your partnership, and the way you guys have thrown in has not just been a little money here, a little money there. It's like all in. It's like the people in here are in. And from the day one, what matters more to us is the people. And so why do we exist? It's really, we put our little brochure in some of the seats, and it says right on the front, connecting the tri-state to global missions. And that's what we want to do. We want to connect the tri-state of the surrounding area of Evansville to global missions. And what's different between us and maybe World Vision or Compassion, they're phenomenal organizations that are huge and large, and they're in every single country in the world, and we're not. We're right here in Evansville. And that's what we feel called to do by God, is to be a lot more personable, where you can see us, you can touch us. We have an office here in the city. People can volunteer there, and I think the biggest difference is that you can get involved, and you can go on a trip. And if you go on our trip, you can see the children that you sponsor, and you can spend a week with the children you sponsor. And there's just, I just don't know of any other organization, whether they're good or bad, that would give you the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's why I love that Uncharted, because Rachel and I and many of you have done World Vision, great organization, Compassion, whatever. But when I found out that I could actually see, hug on, spend a week with the kids that I sponsor, and that was it. That was the selling point, is because it's not just a picture. I get to play soccer with them, and I get to hang out with them. So how many of you guys actually sponsor a child from Uncharted? I think a handful of you guys do.
Wow, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It is awesome.
Yeah. So those are good organizations, don't get me wrong, but we want to partner with Uncharted. So we out of the lobby area here, Brian.
I can't. Is it okay I have my shoes on? I can't get out of my head. I was so conflicted. And
you don't love Jesus if you're wearing shoes.
There's a Walmart somewhere. We can
get you some shoes. Caitlin's wearing shoes today, amazingly, so it's good. So you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So out of the lobby here, and you might not, I've not promoted this very much at all, but out of the lobby at the coffee cafe, we have a little table, and it has Loom House stuff on there. And we're selling it, and all this stuff goes to Uncharted. But what happens to the money? Does it? This is this weird thing that most of the time when you sell stuff for foreign missions, it's like the missionaries and the people get like 5%, and then the organization. So how much do you pocket?
Okay. Well, I think we're assuming a couple things, and I just let me back up and just say, I think local missions is equally as important as global missions, and I don't think one trumps the other or one's more valuable than the other. But Jesus said, "Go into the world, all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Spirit." And so we're literally trying to do our part, or where we feel like God's led us to go. So we're in Afghanistan, Myanmar, China, and even UAE, and just some of the most difficult countries in the world. But when you see Nabu, and when we have over 600 orphans in 11 different orphanages, and one of the big questions is what happens to Nabu when she, quote, ages out of the orphanage? So she has no home, she has no job, she has no family. Where does she go? And everything that we've been trying to protect her from, we don't want her to fall into when she's 17 years of age. And frankly, they got to do something to survive, right? And so the last thing we want them to do is to sell their bodies or just get duped by someone. So a really, really tough issue for us is how can we help them succeed beyond the orphanage? How can we help them to have jobs? So one of those solutions, not all the solutions, but one of the things we do is we set up a kind of a textile small factory. It's smaller than this room right here, and it employs about 15 to 20 of our kids who are now, they're done with high school, and we give them a salary. They work about 40 hours a week. They get the weekends off. If they want to work extra, they can. It's their choice. It's not anything that's forced. And so the bottom line, though, to answer David's question, I kind of beat around the bush, don't I? We give 90% of what is given to us back to them. And the 10% basically just covers a little bit of our overhead. But we used to give 99%, and it just got too hard for us. So 90% goes directly back to those that make it, or we use it to buy more materials, or we use it to make sure the facility is up to par. So it's all related to that job.
So when, not if, when you go to Myanmar with us, you'll actually be able to see the Loom House, meet the girls, and see it's not like this sweatshop. It's a really cool place to be at. It's really, really neat. So we did church planning, as Brian has already mentioned, but we as Catalyst Church have adopted Myanmar, Burma, as our country that we, right now, as a size church, that we're going to sponsor and lead. So, Brian, how many years has it been that you've been in Myanmar, and why is Myanmar such an important country?
Well, our missionary work goes back to 1995, and I personally wasn't the one who started the first orphanage, but I got involved in 1999. I was challenged, actually in 98, to go on a trip, and I just totally was against it and didn't want anything to do with it. And finally, I caved, and God just rocked me big time. Rocked me, floored me. I just never seen third world poverty and all that. So Myanmar is extremely, we think, strategic to Southeast Asia. This country has 60 million people, and they were, at the time when we started, they were less than 1% Christian. And one of our values as Uncharted, and I even think Catalyst is the same, is to reach those who don't know Jesus and to take the good news to those who don't know Jesus. And it breaks my heart personally, and I think it breaks Pastor Dave and Rachel's heart as well. Those who have never even heard the good news or had a chance to hear the good news. And so we're a big church planting organization just like Catalyst, and it's a value for us here, it's a value for us there. It's one and the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned in that that you decided not to go on a trip and then God rocked your world. So I want you to put yourself in the perspective of many people here, because they hear $3,300 to go on a trip, and I don't want to leave my job, I don't want to do this, I don't want to give up a 10, 11 days of my life. So flashback into this mindset that you had, and why is it important for people to at least take one foreign mission trip in their lifetime? Why is that important?
Well, it's a great question, and I can't, I can't force anybody to go, and I don't want to force anybody to go.
I do.
You can say that, but I can't. Here's the deal. I really feel like everybody should go at least once, because you just can't understand it fully until you, I would say, taste it, touch it, smell it, until you're acclimated into that environment. There's just something there. You can watch the video and maybe it brought a tear to your eye, maybe it didn't. But there's just something, and it's not so much, oh, I'm just going to go check it out. I think we're a team, and we're in this together, and we're in this to support local, we're in it to support global, and when you go, I've had people say to me, I'm just going to donate the $3,000 or whatever it is to go to missions, and I'm like, really? Okay, let's see about that. But I think it'd be better if I just donated and not go. But all I can tell you is that when we go, like Amber's been, and some of you, when we go, they tell us, I would rather you come and not bring any money than the alternative to that and not come. And we're like, come on, we all know you'd rather have the $3,000 or whatever it is. And they'd be like, no, when you're here and you're loving us, our kids are so happy, our orphans are having a blast. We can't give the love to them all the time like you guys can come in and instill some energy into us. And so I'd say from just being a church, we need to encourage them and we need to go hug them. And can they build stuff? Well, sure, they're capable, they're smart, probably smarter than us, but in some areas. But you know what? It's a lot funner when we do it together, and it's a lot funner. I know that there's been a team come here from Florida a couple times and serve your church, and that's a big boost. That's a help. So I think it goes both ways. But finally, I just say why you should go is because I think it'll help you grow spiritually. And wherever you are, whether you're not even a Christian yet, or you've been a Christian for 30 years, or 40 years, or 50 years, or whatever, I think you'll meet God in a new, fresh way, and it will propel you spiritually even when you come home. And it won't just be a 12-day trip and check, I've done the mission trip thing, now leave me alone, Pastor Dave. No, I think it'll be something. I had a kid tell me last year, their family went, and he said, for the last 5 years, my family's gone to Disney World, and this is the first time we came on the Myanmar trip. I don't ever want to go back to Disney World. This has been just an incredible trip. And from the kid's perspective, he said more fun than Disney, and I don't know about that, but I think what even the children experience that have gone with this is they've met God, and there's just something about going on a mission as a group with a purpose and knowing that we can impact others. And a lot of us feel like, what skills do I have? What talents do I have? I don't know what in the world I could do. I can't preach. I can't hardly teach. I can't nail a nail. I don't even know what a hammer is. That's me. I can't do any of those things. I can't preach. I can't hammer. I'm painting every day, and I don't even know what I'm doing at our new building. But you know what? I think it's you just throw in, and we find roles and places for people. So
100%, absolutely. So if you do go, you'll find that out at the meeting. If you do go, there's plenty of stuff to do. And my daughter, she is 8. Good. 9. Wow. She's 9 years old, and we're taking her May to. Rachel's willing to sacrifice her spot for myself to take Madison to go because it is a lot of money. But like you said, it helps spiritually.
I think God always makes a way, and we've probably taken over 700 to 800. I'm not sure. I've lost track of people from the tri-state on our trips, and at least 50% of them, the biggest hurdle is the money thing. And all I tell you is for 99.9% of them, God has provided. There's been maybe 5 people in the last 15 years that just have fallen short. And so I know it's an issue, but you can start to save, you can sell some things. We all got too much stuff. And you can write support letters, and people can help you out.
And we'll help you all out with that. And again,
and Dave said for every new person that goes, he'll donate $500. So, how about that? Woo! Woohoo!
You know what God says about life?
I'm in!
Okay.
Who wants to go?
Lord help us. Okay. But if you're interested, seriously, Brian we'll ask one more question, but Brian will be in the coffee cafe, you'll see Brian with a little table. After that, I know we got a children's ministry meeting, so Brian can stick around for as long as he can. But if you have questions to ask him, you can always go to his office. But pick up if you're actually interested. Not saying you are going, but if you're interested and going, make sure you pick up one of these packs. Meet Brian out there and everything. So here's the biggest question I have for you, Brian. You have this. There's a part of the question.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
The biggest question. Okay.
The biggest question is, there's a new initiative that you have going on, and I've had a chance last year or the year before, I forgot when it was, to go to the new Human Trafficking Center to meet these ladies. And as you can see, Brian's getting really emotional with this because this is the heartbeat. We started the orphanages so that we can take these girls off the street, and now we have the opportunity to make even more of an impact. So Brian, share us about, that was the video that you just saw was a teaser to a movie that they have created. So share about this, and then the question is, how can Catalyst Church pray for you and Uncharted International? How can we pray for you? So go ahead and close it out that way.
Okay, well, we also have some of these cards available in your seat, sexual or domestic. They were basically a slave. And the government or the police have rescued them out, and then where do they go? What happens to them? So we created this center where they can come and live with us as long as it's needed. And we give them vocational skill training, counseling. We have social workers there as well. And basically they get meals every day, and they're being taught about Christ, as well as, I'd say, getting physical, emotional, and spiritually healed. And so the movie we made is going to tell the story of 2 of those girls, but we're also going to tell the stories of the orphanages and the other work that we're doing in Myanmar. And it's going to be October 2nd at the Victory Theater in downtown Evansville, and we would love it if you would come and just watch the movie. It would be a huge encouragement to me personally. And what was the other thing you asked?
How can we pray for you?
How can we pray
for you and Uncharted?
We can pray that we sell tickets and that the city would get off my back. No, the city's been cool. I just need to do what they want me to do. But their innovation is, for me, the greatest prayers I need is how can we be more effective at planning churches and telling people about Jesus. And we have some amazing church planners in our network. villages in the middle of nowhere. So I would say that the greatest encouragement to me would be to pray for our orphans, that they're healthy, that they're doing good in school, and that they will become the Christian leaders of tomorrow, the future church leaders for tomorrow. I'd say pray for that, pray for church leaders for tomorrow, and our church planners would feel the love of Catalyst all the way around the world through the Holy Spirit.
Sounds good. Well, can we pray for them real quick? All right, let's go ahead and pray all together, guys. Let's pray. Lord Jesus.